and welcome to the Browns Blitz. Today is Wednesday, December 15th. I'm your host, Rod Bloom. Joining me today is my good friend, Nick Pedone. How are things going for you, Nick?
Rod, things are going well. Things are going especially well now that I'm on your show, that I've heard your voice tonight. So excited to do this again. It's always a blast coming on the Browns Blitz, and I'm looking forward to this one.
I appreciate that, Nick. It's good to talk to you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a while since we've talked. It's been a while since I've been on the show, and our Browns are 9-4, and that's what's really got everybody excited. And I know that's why people are listening to us.
Yeah, I mean, 9-4, coming off this loss to the Ravens, 47-42. I can't even say 47-42. It should have been 45-42. But anyways, the whole deal with the safety and all that stuff. But
that was scoregami. That was scoregami, Rod.
Yeah.
This is the first time an NFL game has ended 47-42. One of the unique scores in football.
Is that right? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so that's scoregami. So that there's only a couple, I think it's like 100 and maybe 20 combinations of unique scores that are possible that haven't happened yet. And that was one of them, 47-42.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah,
that was nice of the Browns to tack on those 2 points for the Ravens to make it end that way. But it was a loss. That was one of the craziest. I hate to say it from a Browns fan's standpoint, but one of the best games I've probably ever seen. Just from a watching it enjoyment point of view, just if you're a fan of just a football fan watching a game, not rooting for either team, that was a tremendous football game to watch. Yeah. And I was upset for a couple minutes after the game because of the loss, but after that I'm like, 9-4. The Browns put up a heck of a fight. They could have easily won that game. So you know what? It didn't feel like the typical loss that we've had in prior years. Maybe even the other losses earlier this season. It just felt different. And I don't want, it's still a loss, so I don't want to downplay it too much. But man, there's just something different about this team, that this loss just didn't hurt the same way, because you feel like it didn't knock this team down. I just feel like they're going to show up next week and be just as ready to go out and play as they were, before this Ravens game. Whereas in prior seasons, you're always afraid, man, that if they take a loss, that oh, here we go. They're going to get on a roll. They're going to start losing, and the season's done because they're not going to win again.
Yeah, and I think it's different. I think, like you said, for me, here's where I'm at on Wednesday as we're recording this. That game was so much fun, even in a loss. And like you said, one of the most fun football games that I've ever watched, because I left that game having the sense of that I'm going to be able to watch a lot more of those from my favorite football team for the next how many ever years. Because the two most important parts of a football team that this organization hasn't had since 1999 is a good quarterback and a good coach. And now you have both of those seemingly going together at the same time. And the offense was very, very good. Obviously, I'm sure we're going to talk about the defense was very bad. And like you said, you don't want to walk away from it like tooting your horn too much, but an old Browns team at halftime down 2 scores doesn't rally back. They don't rally back in the fourth quarter down 2 scores either, because at halftime the Ravens would have just blown us out of the water for an old Browns team. So that's why I feel like so refreshed after this one, just to see that they reacted differently. And they truly were in it until the last play when they tried doing the vertical thing with the safeties.
Well, I was kind of concerned because you think about it, the last few wins for the Browns, they've kind of gone up big early. You think of the Titans game. They were up so far in that first half, and it was just kind of the Browns against the clock in the second half. And then this game, right, they're down, and it's like, well, can they turn it on in the second half of a game? And all they do is come out and, just in the fourth quarter alone, they scored 22 points in the fourth quarter. That's, that's amazing. And the Ravens defense is pretty darn good defense normally.
Right. And that's another thing. We haven't seen Baker struggle against defenses that don't disguise things. And Whit Martindale was doing everything that he could, that's the Ravens D coordinator, to just throw Baker off of his game. And he did. He got him, when Bowser backtracked and was able to get that interception to break Baker's really good interception streak that he had going on of throwing completed balls. But man, it was so refreshing to see that the Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt thing still worked, but that it wasn't completely reliant on that. That down 14 when the Browns need Baker to throw to have a chance to win a football game, that they can. That's a viable option, and that was definitely what was on display on Monday.
This team just doesn't give up on. I'm not going to say the cliche, this team doesn't give up. This team doesn't give up on what it wants to do. You look at Rashard Higgins with the couple drops, fumble, whatever, at the beginning of the game, they just kept going to him. And he turned out, he had some nice plays. I think he ended up with six catches on the game. And, they just keep sticking with what they know is going to work for them. They don't let the other team dictate. Baker, 343 yards passing. The Browns really dominated this game. Their offense. Browns led in time of possession and yards, and all kinds of stuff in this game. The Ravens had a few things, positive, obviously, that went their way, and it was enough for them to get the win. But I hate to just look at a bunch of stats, because this game was so much more than just stats. This game was just teams going at it, two teams that were very confident in their offenses, and the announcers were actually right. I like to get on the announcers on TV, because a lot of times they're very negative toward the Browns. But they said the team who had the ball last was probably going to win, and that's what happened. And I was texting with my brother, at the end, and I'm like, when the Browns were driving down, and I'm like, man, they got to eat some clock. And then when Kareem got in, we're like, man, I hope that they overturn it and give the Browns the ball at the 1 so they can at least run one more play. Because I'm like, man, I'm not going to say, that I knew they were going to lose or anything like that, or I didn't have any faith, but man, I wanted them to run a little bit more time off that clock.
Yeah, same. And that was the same when I was watching it too. I was like, man, I hope we didn't score too soon. And Kevin Stefanski did talk about that after the game. I think it was on Monday. He just spoke to the notion of he didn't really think the pitch to the halfback was going to score in that situation. It was just a heck of a personal effort by Kareem Hunt to make that dive to the goal line, to the pylon to score, because any normal running back that's not all world like Kareem Hunt is, probably doesn't get in that situation.
Right.
But Kareem did, and we scored, and as crazy as it sounds, and the last thing that I'm going to do is rip on Stefanski for scoring too quick, because how many years have we watched this football team where they can't score at all? So I'm not going to be mad at them for scoring and sit here and say that, you should have tried not to score so fast. That's just silly, I think. But I do think that there's some kind of way that I don't know, because I'm not a head coach and I never want to be, that Kevin Stefanski will find, because he's a smart dude, so a situation like that doesn't happen again. As crazy as it sounds, with under 2 minutes after the warning, I think he's smart enough to make adjustments so we don't lose in that fashion again. And all the losses so far, he's proven to make those adjustments week to week.
Yeah, he'll learn from that, definitely. I agree. And yeah, I'm not blaming anybody, definitely. You can't blame Kareem Hunt for the effort, and you can't blame Kevin Stefanski for the calls. It's the way it worked out, and the defense still had the chance to make stops, and it just didn't happen. And it was still I'm trying to think how long the field goal was. It was still a pretty long field goal attempt, was it not?
Yeah, it was 55 yards, and
55.
Justin Tucker is so good, man. That looked like it could have been good from 70.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, sitting there hoping that Justin Tucker's going to miss is kind of like, yeah, probably not. But
right.
It was a great game. I want to get your thoughts on the exchanges after the game between Baker and Lamar and Kevin Stefanski and John Harbaugh. And we want to hate the Ravens so bad. They stole our team. Everybody calls them the rat birds, and we hate each other on Twitter and all this stuff. Man, it was kind of heartwarming, the exchanges that I saw between those guys. I kind of thought, man, you know what? It's almost kind of cool that these guys get along and that they're able to go out and battle, but that they have this respect for each other within the division.
Yeah, it's super cool to see, and it's such a cliche, that you're enemies on the field, but off the field, you could be friends, and there's so many cliches that go into it. But I think the biggest thing is that the NFL is a brotherhood, and that's something that gets talked about a lot as well. But these guys, talking about at least Baker and Lamar Jackson, same draft class, so they went through the combine stuff together. They went through the pro day process together. They even like little minute things that you wouldn't think of, like the day that they get their, rookie sports cards, that's a time where the rookie classes are together with Tops, with Paninis, at autograph signings, at the Super Bowl, when neither team makes it, each of those guys are making appearances and just hanging out and seeing each other there. And it's something that they have in common that nobody else knows about. As much as we like to talk about it and we follow the team so closely, Rod, like closer than just the average fan even, and people that cover the team, we'll never know what it's like to stand under center and take snaps. And that's something that those two obviously know about, and that only 32 other guys in the league know about. So there definitely is kind of a closer bond than just like Browns versus Ravens. And it definitely was cool to see, especially because sometimes another thing that aggravates me, and they're going to bring up the Myles Garrett, drama situation with the helmet swing from last year until they're blue in the face. Like, that's just part of Myles's resume at this point, and it's not going to go away for a long time. And he's aware of that, and he's embraced that. And he, in my opinion, he's overrode that with more positive things. But the negative things that are said about this football team in general, Baker had some troubles at OU. And I think that gives him a lot of, doubters and naysayers about his attitude and about his just like emotional intelligence, with the nut grab and with the with the gestures and getting arrested. But in Cleveland, as far as we're concerned, and as far as anybody really knows, outside of some crazy Cheesecake Factory rumors, he's kind of been like the model citizen.
He has. He has. I mean, people have gotten on him for, like last season, saying he came in out of shape and things like that, but nothing, not the pure drama, not getting in trouble, things like that, things that you really want him to avoid.
Right. And that was the concern, the Johnny comparisons before the draft, like it's just been polar opposite. It's night and day with this guy. So it definitely was classy after the game. And I love when the NFL does, releases that kind of stuff. And a little birdie told me that Kevin Stefanski mic'd up when that does drop, maybe tomorrow or, later in the week, that it's like a really good one. It's going to have fans fired up.
Nice. I think that when I saw that video, especially of Stefanski and Harbaugh, I think that's the most respect I've seen from another team toward the Browns in years, and I think that's why that kind of hit me.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most
all the Browns have done this year, and that's really the first time I've really seen it like that. These guys realize that the Browns are for real, and the Browns can play with them.
Yeah,
they're actually respecting them.
Yeah, and how about at the very end of the clip, Harbaugh tells Stefanski, maybe we could run into you guys in the playoffs if we win a few more games. Like, what kind of alternate universe are we living in where opposing head coaches are telling the Browns head coach, hey, maybe we'll see you guys in the playoffs? And it's not sarcastic, it's not facetious, because the Browns are going to be in there.
It's just crazy. I mean, I still have to kind of pinch myself of the way this season's gone. I knew the Browns had some talent, and I like the Andrew Berry hire, and I thought Stefanski had a chance to grow into a good head coach. I mean, obviously, he had no head coaching experience, so how do you really know? How do you really know? You don't expect guys to come in out of the gate and be a great NFL head coach, and I'm not saying he's great yet. So, I really thought it would take him some time, especially with the way the season started. I thought it'd take him a few games to kind of gel, and, they'd take some early lumps and then kind of get on track near midseason and get some wins and, maybe win 8 or 9 games this year if things went well. It's just been unreal. I mean, these guys have bought in. Stefanski's just been phenomenal. We've got contributions from just guys all over the roster, and I don't know. I mean, I'm just so excited about this team, and it's not even for this season. It's for the future of this team and where it's going, and the fact that we probably have a head coach who's going to be here for who knows how long.
Right. Yeah, it's refreshing and it's so different. Even if you look not so big picture at this season, we're in week 15 of the NFL. This time is usually prime, like, mock draft season. We're planning, we're even looking towards the second round in week 15 and in Cleveland Browns years past, but now we're looking at like playoff seeding. It's just so different than anything that we've seen before. And what's impressed me the most is they've won the games that they were supposed to, which they started to learn how to do last year under Kitchens. And I'll give him a little bit of credit there because I definitely dragged him through the mud on my show tonight. But they're winning the games that they're supposed to win and a little bit extra. And any team in the NFL, when you take care of your business against the bad teams and you do a little bit more, that's what the recipe to get in the wild card. I don't know if you could win a division that way and really make a splash in the playoffs and get to a Super Bowl. But all it takes, we're seeing, is to just win a few games. You don't even have to look good doing it. The Browns played a quarter of their season on Neptune. It snowed. It sleeted. It grumbled or whatever it was called. It was windy. And they still managed to win a few of those games. So that's what's so refreshing to me. Because like you said, Rod, old Browns, after that Raiders loss, they would have just unraveled, and that would have been it.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about Kevin Stefanski and just try to figure this out. The Browns have had so many head coaches. And without even understanding exactly what Kevin Stefanski has done to get this team to where it is, what do you think the key factors are to get these guys to buy in and to turn this team around so quickly? I mean,
that's a good question. I think it's a number of things. I think the first and foremost, like you said, the players are bought in. And he's not even a player's coach. Like it's not like Freddie's day spa was last year where players were just kind of doing their own thing. Like it definitely seems like there's structure. It seems like this guy is organized. I think those are big things. I think the Haslams said it ad nauseum this offseason, this idea of like cohesion and like work togetherness, I think helps a rookie head coach significantly. Like Alex Van Pelt as the offensive coordinator, we don't really know what he does behind the scenes, but Stefanski was willing to bring him in anyways and work with the starting franchise quarterback on changing his footwork, which like in year 3 should be unforeseen. But Stefanski was open to it. He was open into bringing in Bill Callahan, who's been a head coach in this league before, to coach the offensive line, which desperately needed help, after everything that we saw last year. So I think it's a number of things of getting the players to buy in, using discipline, because the players aren't going to ask for it, but they want discipline. They want the best to be brought out of themselves. And Stefanski certainly puts them in the position to do so on the field. Look what he does with his play calling, with using Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt to better the passing game, to make Baker's life easier, which in turn gets, Jarvis involved, Rashard Higgins involved. This 6th-round pick, Donovan Peoples-Jones, looks like a very nice piece in this offense. Get him involved in his rookie season. And I think the players, they're not dumb. They know that. They're like, man, this guy cares about us. He's getting us all, involved in the ball game. And I think that just bodes so well for a team. And yeah, like you said, rookie head coach, but he surely doesn't seem like it, because this team, his mantra, you hate the mantras, you hate the cliches. Like Mike Pettine's was this stupid, play like a Brown. And then, Hugh did the Hard Knocks thing, and it said the land of hard knocks in Berea or something, that they were going to play hard football. And Stefanski's was all bark, no bite, or no other vice versa, all bite, no bark. And they've just lived up to that. There hasn't been a lot of talking. There hasn't been the drama that we had last year. I mean, think this time last year, the Browns were getting ready to play the Arizona Cardinals. To that point, you had the Myles Garrett helmet swing. You had the come get me stuff with Jarvis and Odell. You had your head coach wearing a T-shirt created by a Cleveland, T-shirt apparel company that said Pittsburgh started it, in public in a movie theater, taking pictures with fans. A myriad of other things that I just can't even. You had Jesus Tony and players storming out of press conferences. Yeah. It was just it was something new every day. It was like keeping up with the Kardashians in Berea. And so just to not have those kind of distractions anymore is another thing that's just been light years better for this team, because they say, we tune that stuff out. We tune out all the noise that's not coming from this building. It's impossible to do that nowadays. You at least pick up the crumbs of what people are saying. You want to know what your friends and family are up to, so you're on Instagram, you're on Twitter. You see what people are saying about your team, and it's personal. We have this year something that bugs me. And I'll say it on here. I didn't want to say it on mine just because I chickened out.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Mac Wilson, man. Why is that guy searching his own name on Twitter and blocking fans that are critical of him and getting in arguments with media members? Dude, you have not had that good of a year. You played football at Alabama, which is arguably, next to Ohio State and Clemson. I'm being a homer. The biggest accomplishment that you could have in college football.
Right.
You're clearly a good player. Work on being better at this level and stay off Twitter, man. Stop blocking random people. You don't know who they are. These idiot fans don't care about your life outside of what happens in those 4 lines that are the football field. Those type of distractions were present last year times a million. Speaking of Twitter, we had a safety last year threaten a media member to kill him. It was just that kind of stuff.
That's true. Yeah, it was a mess last year, and I guess it is discipline. I think it's respect for the coach, and I think it's. Let me say that if any of this stuff is going on now, and I've said this before on the show, but if any of this stuff's going on now, it's all being handled in house. Right. So we don't know about it, and that's how you're supposed to do it. Okay? But I think stuff would still get out somehow, just because of what you're talking about. It's so hard to completely hide things. But I just think these guys respect each other. They respect Stefanski, and they finally respect I think they respect the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, that's huge.
and I think just people didn't. I don't think anybody respected the Cleveland Browns because of the record over the past almost 20 years.
Yeah, and I don't. It sucks to harp on the bad, and that's what people hate doing. But you're exactly right. People respect the Browns, and I want to give a big shout out in the process to Jarvis Landry for that. I think he's responsible for a lot of like the change the culture type stuff, even before that Thursday night game when Baker checked in and beat the Jets. Like it definitely seemed like when Jarvis was here and he bought in that things were starting to turn around. But even just a few years ago, when you want to talk about the disrespect, even before 0-16, we had Dwayne Bowe sitting on the sideline just collecting $9 million, and he wasn't a bad receiver. Like I just don't, and sure, he could have been injured. We'll never know what truly happened there. But the point of the matter is that didn't seem like a guy to me that was bought in to the organization. That didn't seem to me like a guy that wanted to win for our fan base. Like this team always says, this fan base deserves it more than anyone else. And this team understands that. And that's what makes them so likable.
Yeah, and I'm going to go back to what I guess before the season with David Njoku with the with demanding the trade and all that stuff, and he ends up here in Cleveland. Look at the way he played,
right?
Monday night, and he really looked like a guy who was bought in, who was trying to take advantage of the opportunity, and enjoyed playing with his teammates.
Yeah,
and
engaged.
And I'm just using him as an example, of one of the guys on the team because, he just looks like any other guy out there now. I think they're all, and it's not like every player we have is perfect, but but these guys are out there trying and playing for each other, and they're playing and for Stefanski and for the Browns, I think, and it's just a totally different feel. It just felt like guys were playing, a bunch of individuals sometimes before, and I'm sure a lot of that is the coaching.
Yeah.
Just, having guys know where they need to be. So, so it looks like they're playing as a team too. But to me, I see the effort, and it's, it's just plain different. So
it's refreshing.
It is. So that brings me to Cody Parkey, who missed a field goal and an extra point. And the Browns, of course, were down by 3 down by 3. So, things could have obviously been different if the Browns would have made those kicks. The game may have been played differently, but in theory, anyways, that field goal wouldn't have been enough for the Ravens to win the game if he makes those 2 kicks. So my question for you is this. Cody has had problems in pressure situations before. Is he a guy that just can't make kicks under pressure in big games? And is this something that needs to be addressed? Do the Browns need to find another kicker, even if it's not this season, in the future?
Yeah, that's a tough question because you hate to take a job away from somebody like that, but I guess that's kind of our job. That's kind of our job as pundits and hosts, is to have these tough conversations. I think long term, my answer there for you, Rod, is yes. I think those problems are apparent. He missed one in the Titans game too, and Baker Mayfield was able to kind of put some Febreze on that stink in the first half just because of those magical touchdowns and the performance of the whole team, really. But I do think it's a
up to then he had been very, very good this season.
Yeah, I think I don't know what it is about those high pressure situations, and I know people like to jump on them, our people here on Twitter, but Tony Grossi asked Stefanski that after the game, and just said it's been an issue before. Like you kind of see as they're showing him on the telecast, the fogginess in his eyes and just the sheer unconfidence of it all, of the entire situation. And Stefanski obviously classy dude that he is, didn't throw him under the bus. And he said, he's our kicker. We need more out of him. I'm not going to just cancel him because of those mistakes. What was refreshing to me about the Parkey situation is he at least made the kick at the end, the extra point at the end. Because if he would have missed it there, I don't know what you do. The Browns do have a kicker on their practice squad, as do a lot of other teams this season, is Matt McCrane, who kicked for a little bit with the Oakland Raiders when they were in California still. But I think long-term that's something that needs addressed. And, Rod, quite frankly, I don't know how you go about that because we've tried drafting them. We've tried picking up failed kickers from other cities. We've tried bringing in free agents like we did with Parkey. Like, I don't know what the next step is really. Like, you just find the kid that kicked at North. Yeah, the kid that kicked at North. It's not an easy job, and
it's not easy to find a kicker that stays around for a long time either.
This season they've been bad around the league, so that's definitely why you don't do it now, because it's not like everybody else has been lights out and he's been the only one that's been stinking it up. Because before the last few weeks, he's been one of them that's been reliable. So I think you definitely gotta weather the storm with Parkey for this year.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And I also agree it's not an easy thing to do. To just go out. It's kind of like the quarterback thing to very much a lesser degree. When people wanted to just let's back before when Baker wasn't exactly lighting it up in the first few games of the season, people were like, we need to. Baker's not the guy. Well, okay. Well, who is?
Right.
You still need somebody for that job, and you can't. They're not just lined up on the street guys who can come in and kick a 40, 45, 50-yard field goal.
Yeah.
So it's tough, but I agree with you. I think that I'm sure they will at least look for competition. Who knows what format that will be, but I would think it would be probably next season.
Yeah, definitely. They usually do that anyways. Like, there's usually a camp leg that comes in, just for those summer months. So I definitely think that could happen, and then it would probably be, much more competitive. Some years they say, it's a competition, but the other guy is just like a walk-on from Mount Union. I think this year, the other guy might be somebody that is really about their salt and has what it takes to kick at the NFL level.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of kickers out there now with NFL experience, I think.
A
lot of guys have been getting cut, and the other guys getting chances. So there's a lot of guys with experience. I would think they'll bring somebody like that in.
Yeah, they did this time, so we'll see. What's kind of crazy is, and I tweeted about it when it happened, when he missed that first kick, was, interestingly enough, that's what caused the meltdown week 1. If you remember, the Browns scored somewhat easily on a pretty nice drive, and then Austin Seibert missed the extra point, and then it just went all downhill from there. And then I think he missed a field goal in that game too, and then Parkey misses the field goal, and that's why we lose to the same exact team in a different week. It's frustrating, but it's a part of the game.
That it is.
The Browns Blitz is brought to you by Skippin' Stones. Skippin' Stones is at Etsy.com, SKIPPINSTONEZ. It's not too late to do some Christmas shopping in the shop, Skippin' Stones. So check out the handmade items, some sales going on, and special deals on shipping. If you have your Christmas shopping done, how about just supporting small business, whether it's Skippin' Stones or somebody else? Take a look, and if you don't want to get something for a gift, why not get something for yourself? Now let's get back to the podcast.
So let's move on to the defense.
Yeah,
we knew it was coming. Few things, Do you think the Browns win that game if Trace McSorley doesn't get hurt?
Yes, I think if Lamar doesn't come back out, from the cramps, or if he had to go to the bathroom or whatever
it was.
Whatever it was, poop gate. I think if that's McSorley in there, the Browns find a way to get off the field on 4th and 5. and Baker takes a knee and, shakes Lamar's hand and goes into the locker room. And we're sitting here having a conversation at 10-3. I truly do.
Yeah. Same here. And before we talk about Joe Woods and the defense in general, Myles Garrett, okay, he's taken a little bit of heat because he hasn't been himself since coming back from COVID. Okay, he's not piling up the sacks. Okay.
Right.
Nick, he's held constantly and it never gets called. But
yeah. Why
does this happen? I mean, what can the Browns do about this? I mean, this is somebody tweeted this back to me today. It's literally messing with Myles' legacy. The fact that he can be held on almost every play, tackled out there, grabbed, everything, and it's not called. Teams could be saying, hey, we watched the tape from last week. Myles was held, 18 times, and they only called it once. Hold him. Just tackle him. They won't call it.
Right.
What is going on? I mean, the Browns in prior seasons have always been, screwed on penalties. Okay. And I always thought when the Browns got better, the penalties would get more even, because I think penalties go on the team's reputation. When you stink, you're going to get more penalties called against you because the officials, and it's like you have to earn. It's kind of like in baseball, the respect of a good hitter with a strike zone. I think it's the same thing. And I think we've seen a little bit of that in overall penalties, but Myles is not getting these holding calls. And once he starts getting these holding calls, if it ever happens to where guys can't hold him on every single play, he'll be able to get more sacks.
Yeah. I think the frustrating thing there is that every officiating crew calls every single rule differently. Like, that's just a maddening part of the sport, is different crews call things differently. As far as Myles' legacy goes, that is definitely like a deep thing that's important to mention. But what kind of sucks about it in the grand scheme of things is I don't know that the NFL cares about Myles' legacy as much as they care about Lamar Jackson's legacy, as much as they care about Patrick Mahomes' legacy, as Aaron Rodgers' legacy that's already established. The NFL has gone so much towards, offense and just creating rules that help the offenses thrive. It's so hard to play any defensive position, let alone end or corner. I think that's just one of those things that unless you get, like you said, a good officiating crew that's on it, that puts on tape that, hey, we're going to call this, so don't hold him every play, or else you're going to be giving up an automatic first down on every single play. I think that could just be a problem that continues. And I love that Myles doesn't use it as an excuse. He's on Twitter after the game, he's like, no, that's a weight room issue. And he uses it like motivation, as if the guy needs to be in the weight room anymore. Like, before I even recorded this, I ate 2 Christmas cookies at 9 p.m. And Myles Garrett is worrying about getting in the weight room. So that's encouraging to see. But as far as that issue, I just don't know how you change it, because the NFL just doesn't care about their defensive players right now.
Well, you make a great point. They are going to be more protective of the quarterbacks. We know that, but it's unfortunate because you don't even have to look for it. It's almost on every replay that you watch where they're showing from behind the quarterback from behind. You can see Myles coming around the edge, and you can see him either being tackled or grabbed by the by the one of the linemen.
I think
almost every play.
I think another thing that could go into it, like big picture, as far as like legacy is concerned, is he's still getting 1 per game, really. It's just that they're not in the same like huge timely spots that they were in at the beginning of the season. And I think that could kind of play into the NFL's like thinking. I know that sounds like such a twisted, like almost conspiracy theorist way of looking at it, but the NFL knows, like, hey, even with these guys like draped all over his back and tackling him into the turf every single play, this guy is still getting a sack per game. He's still up there with the NFL, the defensive player of the year conversation. Him and Aaron Donald are the best defensive linemen in the game still, despite this holding problem, despite, coming down with COVID-19 and having to sit out for a few weeks, and then, regaining his legs in the games that he was healthy from dealing with some of the, side effect symptoms that come from COVID. I think the NFL is just like, yeah, this guy is still all world. He doesn't need our holding calls to perform, and that's just kind of a really twisted way of looking at it, but that could be true as well.
You're probably right. You're probably right. So I'm always going to see it from Myles' standpoint, from his viewpoint. Yeah. So yeah. So anyways, we're talking defense in general. So Joe Woods getting some grief. I mean, the Browns defense getting grief. They gave up a lot of points.
Right.
They gave up a lot of points in the second half in Tennessee. Points that who cares? Okay, Browns had that game won. I really don't care about the points in Tennessee. So the Browns had a huge lead. So but the game against the Ravens, yeah, there were issues, sure. But the main issue is Lamar Jackson.
Right.
I don't think they didn't have anybody who could really stick with him. I don't think they were really even trying to play a spy on him.
No,
surprisingly. I guess you have to have the right guy to do that, first of all.
Right. Rod, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm not going to kill Joe Woods for that. No. It sucks, and he gets the grief because he is the defensive coordinator. That's just kind of what you sign up for when you take a job like that. And was he flawless? I'm sure not. I'm sure, he did things that he would have done differently, in hindsight, after seeing how it unfolded and seeing how Lamar was able to really just have his way with us. But when you look at that back seven without Denzel Ward, what playmakers really are there? I personally like Sione Takitaki. This whole season, I've had fun on Twitter, as has everyone else, with the Andrew Sendejo stuff. And I started a campaign of #FreeRedWine to let him play, because who knows, why not just see what you have in him over Sendejo? But yeah, in all seriousness, one guy wasn't going to make a difference in that game. It's just the overall lack of talent, on this defense against an all-world team. And we saw the result of that. And that's not something, some fans, I saw people mad on Twitter, shocker, about, oh, good thing we held on to all those draft picks at the deadline and Andrew Berry sat on his hands. These freaking analytic people, people get all bent up over that. It's come on, man. One rotational linebacker that we would have traded a 5th-round pick for at the deadline isn't going to be the reason that you beat the defense. It wouldn't have made that huge of a difference. It's definitely systemic issue that just the defense isn't that talented, and they'll get there. They're going to make some moves. Cohesion is part of that, and keeping Joe Woods for another season and keeping Andrew Berry and Stefanski and all three of those jokers together at one time, I think we're going to see a much improved unit next year.
The defense wasn't really addressed this past offseason. I mean, Grant Delpit obviously, was going to be the main piece that was added. They added some linebackers, but nobody that was going to make be a big difference maker this season. Honestly, B.J. Goodson's probably been the best linebacker that they added.
Yeah, I've been impressed with him.
He's played a lot. He's been pretty darn good. For a guy who came in who who we thought was going to be, who was advertised as a two-down linebacker, and he's been way more than that. It really, the only additions were on the defensive line, and Billups isn't, Billups took the year off, so there's really not much attention paid to the defense at all in the offseason. I think this was essentially a 2-year plan. And not only 2, but 2-year plan. They wanted to get the offense right this offseason and touch the defense a little bit where they could. And I think they're going to try to shore up the defense this next offseason.
Yeah, I'm with you all the way there. They hoped, again, I hate to do this, they hoped for more out of Mack Wilson, and he didn't deliver. Same with Sione Takitaki. They hoped that those two guys could take the year 2 jump and fill the Christian Kirksey shoes and fill the Joe Schobert shoes, and they weren't able to do that. And people will gripe about it, but analytically driven front offices don't think highly of that position. I don't know why. I'm not an analytically driven front office myself. Like, I don't work for one. But look at the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't really know any linebackers on that team. Like, they're just serviceable players. But definitely you need guys that could hold their own. And on Monday we just saw that the majority of ours can't even do that, and that's the cause for concern for me.
Well, I would much rather see the secondary, and of course there's going to be guys who are back next season. We're sure hoping, so that's going to be a big boost to the secondary anyway. But I think they'll try to add some other guys to the secondary for depth for next season. Do that and give me one linebacker with some speed, for next season, and I'll take my chances, pretty much with the rest of these guys. If we can have a much stronger secondary, they've really asked a lot of guys who would not have been starting normally.
Right. Yeah,
so
that's what's insane. Terrence Mitchell plays every snap of every game, and he was going into the season as the 4th cornerback, even behind Kevin Johnson, who was projected to be the nickel. It's crazy what injury could do to a team. It's part of the game, but our defense definitely took its toll on us this year. And having Ward, Greedy, Delpit, it's going to look completely different. It's just going to be better too, because those players, even though Delpit, it'll technically be his rookie season, and Greedy, it'll technically be only his 2nd year. Those guys have talent. That's why they were drafted in the position that they were. And it'll just be so much more refreshing to see what the young guys have. And if they don't have it, then that's fine. You go and you find a different way if your young guys can't produce for you. But that's to be foreseen. For this year, I think that was the best offense that we're going to play in the regular season. And come playoffs, if it were to start today, it's been seen that we could scheme, against Derrick Henry and contain him and the Titans. Yeah. So I'm optimistic about it because we don't play another Lamar Jackson on the schedule. So that's the good news.
Yeah, definitely. I think Joe Woods has done an excellent job with overall I'm talking. I mean, sure, you can pick out the Ravens game, and like you said, he could have changed some things. Maybe schemed a little bit differently, maybe slowed him down more, but
right.
It was, like you said, probably the toughest challenge he faced all season. But overall, with the injuries and with the roster that he had to work with, I think he's done an excellent job. He's really gotten some great contributions out of some guys that you really wouldn't expect it out of.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. It's so fun to rip on Sendejo on Twitter because the fans feel like they need to blame somebody always, and he just happens to be the scapegoat when it's not his fault either. And kudos to Joe Woods for putting him in a position where he could play 100% of the free safety snaps and be that leader out there at minimum. It's better than playing 11 on 10. It's better than playing without Sendejo. So.
Well, there's nobody else that's going to do any better. I mean, they think Sendejo is the best guy to be out there. So he's playing, he's giving his best, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, I definitely I think it'll be better. I'm optimistic on the Browns, and it's so weird to say that this late in the season, but yeah, you shore up that defense, and this team could hang in there with anybody. I mean, even Stephen A. Smith on national TV, who is one of the biggest Browns doubters, said the same thing. If their defense can play opportunistic, and if we see the same Baker Mayfield that we've seen for the last 2 weeks, the Browns could beat the Chiefs. Like, they could beat anybody because they're talented. Like, it's crazy to say. But if the defense causes turnovers and Baker plays like that, nobody's hanging with the Browns.
Well, you think about it, the Browns did not get a turnover in the Ravens game. So if they get a turnover, good chance they win that game too.
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of something that's slowed down. Like, seems like the well of turnovers have dried up recently. And it would be nice to kind of re-tap into that well come playoff time.
Get that going again?
Yeah, because come playoff time, that's how teams win playoff games. Like, there's always some kind of, you hate to say fluky moment, but there's always some kind of moment where a play is made, for the lack of better words, that causes a team to win a game and causes a deserving team to lose a game sometimes.
You're right. Hey, I want to look at a couple of stats real quick, and then we'll talk a couple minutes about the Giants.
For sure.
I'm just looking at Baker's stats, and I know the Browns, it's one game at a time. But when I look at player stats, I got to look at their projections and stuff for the season. Baker has 23 touchdown passes. Got 3 games left to go. You know what the record is for the Browns, right?
I think we're pretty close.
The record is 30.
Okay.
So he needs 7 touchdown passes in 3 games to tie the record. So, not that Baker's going to be worried about that. He's putting together an excellent season, but he's in range of that.
And fair to say that it'll happen eventually if it doesn't happen this year.
Yeah, definitely. 23 touchdowns and 8 picks. Great numbers. Definitely great numbers. And he's going to easily hit 3,000 yards. He's almost at 2,800. So yeah, nice year for Baker. I've been putting out tweets every week for how many yards per game Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt need to get to 1,000 apiece. Nick Chubb's going to get there. I don't think Kareem Hunt's going to make it. That doesn't diminish anything at all for the season that Kareem's had or that the Browns' running game has had. Nick's got 881 yards. He only needs 119 yards in 3 games, so that's going to be a piece of cake. But Kareem needs 228 yards, which is about 70 some yards a game, right. And he's just not getting that many carries. I mean, it's possible if he has a big game, but it breaks a long one or something. But I don't know if that's going to happen. And obviously, that's them both getting 1,000 yards is not the goal for the Browns,
right?
This year.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Yeah, but I mean, he's going to be close. He's going to be close. He'll probably hit 900, and Nick's going to easily hit 1,000. So it's going to be a tremendous season for both of these guys. But I don't think they're going to make that. But anyways, I like looking at numbers, Nick. I just do.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't like looking at numbers. That's why I picked journalism.
So the New York Giants, they've won 4 out of 5 games.
Yeah, they're a good team.
I think their defense has really been winning these games for them. Mm-hmm. I mean, they haven't been giving up any more than 20 points a game. And I don't have those numbers right in front of me, but their defense has been playing well. Their offense really isn't that scary.
No.
Daniel Jones, he came back and played last week, right? So, and he came back from injury, and he still looked injured, and I'm hoping he's going to be playing again this week.
Yeah, he's questionable going in. I'm with you, though. I definitely hope that he's the draw between him and Colt. The last thing that we need is a Colt McCoy revenge game. That's the last thing any team needs ever. But yeah, I'm with you. That offense isn't scary. Their defense is good. Like, I'm impressed with them overall. Like, even though their offense isn't great, like I'm impressed with what Joe Judge has been able to do, their rookie head coach. Because when he was hired, I was like, they really just did what the Browns did. We were all kind of like skeptical because Freddie was a running back coach. All they did, he was a receiver coach, turned head coach, but he's done a good job. And it seems like those players have bought in as well, especially on the defensive side of the football. And I hate to say it, a lot of that is Jabril Peppers.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what can you say?
Yeah. Not going down that path today. Who won the trade?
No, but I mean, Jabril he was really starting to, to come into his own in Cleveland, the season before the trade. So I'm not surprised that he's doing well. I mean, Daniel Jones, his stats are not good. So I don't think, I think that I think the Browns have a good chance, on defense of being able to slow down the Giants and create some turnovers. Some turnovers that could help. And the way the Browns offense is going right now, I don't think we really care what defense shows up. I think the Browns are going to score their points. I think the Browns can put up 30 points on pretty much anybody right now.
Yeah, it's crazy to say.
Like it does.
It's because, like, you usually, like with the Browns, like in order for them to get a win, you need to get a full 60 minutes out of both sides of the ball. Like, that's the only way the Browns are going to win. Like, it needs to be a complete game, no penalties. But it's like now with this team, they found ways to overcome like their deficiencies, which is a very good thing. And yeah, this game just doesn't freak me out that much, even though it is on the road in New Jersey. It's going to be freezing this weekend. I'm so excited for it because it's another primetime game. And like, even though the Browns have kind of a small history recently of wetting the bed on primetime games, it's just always such a good opportunity, in my opinion, for just like to put the league on notice. Like, everybody watches, Sunday night, everybody watches Monday night. Like, it's just awesome to watch, even if it's a garbage game and if it's like a shellacking. And that's going to be the first thing that they're talking about on Monday morning was like the Browns, Baker, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. And it's so cool to see our little city of Cleveland like in that big spotlight. And I think, for Browns fans, that's something that you have to look forward to for a very long time, because why would they not continue to put this team with this head coach in nationally televised games?
That's right. Yeah, the Browns are a 3.5-point favorite on the road. The over-under's 45.5, and on this show with the Browns, we take the over.
Oh yeah, on any show with any team, you always bet the over.
But you have to take the over with the Browns. I mean, there was 87 points scored Monday night. 87, is that right?
Yeah, a ridiculous amount. 47 points. Yeah.
Or no, 89. 89.
Yeah, that's crazy. Almost 90 points.
Almost 90. I'll take the over on the 45.5. I should actually put money on some of these instead of just saying I'm taking the over. I'd probably be doing pretty good.
Yeah, definitely the over. And I think they could get that 3.5 too. Truthfully, I think even though I like the Giants, like, I don't know why. I guess if I were to have to pick a team in the NFL outside of the Browns, like, the Giants is an okay one. They're out of market, out of division, out of conference even.
I just good history. Yeah,
has some good history. They play in this season alone. They're playing inspired right now, so they definitely do scare me from that aspect. But all around, we're playing inspired right now too, and we just have way more talent. So this game just doesn't freak me out that much. I'd take the 3.5 and the over, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch if you're a Browns fan, and probably not that fun to watch if you're a Giants fan. How crazy would it be if they got the over all by themselves, if they just went ahead and took the 45, just the Browns?
Wow, that would be something. Yeah. Well, and that would give them a sweep of the NFC East too.
Yeah, which, come on,
no big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. Come on. And we also swept, the Jaguars, the Texans. Give me a break with that too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the only guys that got us were the Raiders.
Wow, how about that? Sweep
Yeah,
two
could be
conferences.
two.
I didn't even think about that.
Fun fact for you.
That's wild. That is wild. So you're
When's the
taking the
last time
Browns.
that's happened? Probably a
Oh
long time.
gosh, I don't know. Yeah, the last time the Browns swept any conference like that. It's probably before your time, Nick.
Yeah, fair to say. Many things are recently with these teams. Last time they were 9-3. Last time they were 9. I've gone through that a lot.
We'd have to go back to that 10-6 season and see who they beat. They may have swept a conference there, but I don't know. That's been that's been 13 years ago at that. So what's your score prediction? Are you giving the Browns the 46 points or?
No, I'm not going to give them 4. I'm crazy, and it is late, but I'm not that crazy. I'm going to go just a very comfortable win. I'm going to pick the Browns to win this game 33-21. I think the Giants have what it takes. They create some runs at times, but if our front four could get after Danny Dimes, I could see it being even a bigger blowout than that, because I think that Louis Riddick for the Arizona Cardinals, who they played last week, that dude had 5 sacks by himself in a game. And he's not a defensive tackle or an end. He is like a safety or a linebacker. Like, he's a secondary player. So I think if he had 5 sacks in this game, if I was Danny Dimes, I would be, very nervous to see Myles Garrett, Olivier Vernon, Sheldon Richardson, who's been a very underrated piece of that defense for the Browns. And I think they win comfortably, though, Rod, is what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I agree. I'm going to go with almost the same score. I'm just going to say 31-24 because that's kind of where I see it. I think the Browns will put up 30. I think they'll give up some points too. So the Browns defense is probably not going to shut anybody down entirely. So Giants will score some, but hopefully it's a nice comfortable victory. Even though I only gave them a 7-point win, Giants will score late. So it won't really be that close.
Right. Yeah. Maybe some of those goofy garbage time touchdowns. I like that some of the advanced stat websites now, and you probably know more than I do when it comes to the numbers, they even factor in garbage time now. Many people at the bye week made such a big deal about the point differential, because the Browns are very ugly in that department, or and they definitely were at the bye week. Excluding garbage time though, it's not that bad. They're not getting outscored by their opponents. It's just in garbage time, they kind of pull back the dogs, which causes us all to have minor heart attacks in our living rooms. But as long as they're winning, I guess it works. I'd like to see Stefanski kind of pour it on a little bit more. I know he's a classy dude, and it does feel like they pull back a little bit at the end.
They do. Yeah.
Yeah, but some of those games get a little too close.
You're right. But hopefully we're looking at 10-4 after this Giants game. That would that would be nice. So
yeah, I think it's likely.
Yeah. So Nick, when I brought you in, I didn't even give out any of your information whatsoever. So
that's fine.
We just started talking. So get your Twitter here. It's at Nick Pedone 12. And why don't you tell everybody what you're up to, where they can find you? It's kind of everywhere.
Yeah, definitely kind of everywhere. Just so many places, just trying to give the people as much content as they could consume. Working with ESPN Cleveland, obviously that's my biggest, most fun venture. Love those guys and my teammates there. Can't wait for things to be back to normal so we could all be kind of face-to-face together again in an office setting like it was back in March, crazy to believe, almost a year ago. You could also find me socially distant on Fansided, where I Dog Pound Daily. I cover the Browns for them. Everything from heartbreaking news to analysis to columns to interviews, all that kind of great stuff. And then my own podcast on bigplay.com, which is titled Pedone My Take, which is definitely an original name that I thought of myself, and it is a spin-off of the popular Pardon the Interruption, as well as my last name, as well as First Take. So it's a blend of a myriad of things. So Pedone My Take, fun podcast. I try to keep things, a little bit more serious. Browns talk, Cavs talk, Indians talk, national sports headlines too. We've had some fun guests on there. For anybody that doesn't know, we've had Kendall Lamb recently after his big touchdown to talk about that. We've had Cavs assistant coach Lindsey Gottlieb. I did a long, exclusive interview with Bob Wiley, Hard Knocks legend, former Browns coach. I did a long interview with Scott Pollard on what it was like playing with young LeBron. So just a bunch of fun stuff. That's what this is all about, making fun content, engaging the audience. It's sports. At the end of the day, it's not politics. It's not covering policy. People's lives aren't in danger here. This is all for entertainment and having fun. So that's definitely what I'm all about. And best way to keep, up with it all is just on Twitter, I would say, at Nick Pedone 12.
Excellent. Hey, Nick, it's been great talking to you, buddy.
Yeah. This is so much fun, sit back and talk about the Browns. You can't beat it. It's definitely a lot of fun. And thank you very much for having me on. It really is always a blast.
Yeah. Sure is. All right. This has been the Browns Blitz, and we will catch you next time.